Every game has characters, weapons, and items that aren't very good, and every game's player base has people like me that are obsessed with making something lackluster feel super powerful. Destiny 2 Forsaken released with 3 new subclass branches for each of the game's classes, and the Titan's Code of the Devastator is one of the worst. It's a lot of fun and has a lot of potential, but if you're going to make the subclass work, you've got to work with it. Today, we're going to look at a build that I feel works with all the strengths and weaknesses found in the Code of the Devastator. Let's get started. The strongest subclasses in Destiny 2 have some form of cooldown reduction in their active abilities or passive abilities. The Code of the Devastator doesn't have any reasonable ways to reduce their cooldowns, so our first goal is to pack our armor full of things to alleviate that problem. Because we can completely refresh our melee ability Throwing Hammer by picking it up where it lands in the field, most of our gear is spec'd for grenade cooldown reduction. We've got 4 ordnance mods, our boots have the bomber perk which reduces our grenade cooldown when activating our class ability, and a paragon mod to reduce our class ability cooldown. Normally I skip over the boring number crunching stuff, but since we're trying to make a crappy subclass better, I think it's important to talk about it. With 4 ordnance mods, our grenade cooldown is 37 seconds. With each bomber activation, we drop that by 7 seconds, so our actual grenade cooldown is 30 seconds. Not bad, but it gets better. For our exotic armor, we're using the Heart of Inmost Light. This exotic is incredibly complicated, but I'll give you the basic explanation. Activating one ability grants you a buff called Empower, which improves the effectiveness or damage of your other 2 abilities and speeds up their cooldown. By starting our Empower with a melee and refreshing it with our Barricade, we can throw a grenade every 10 seconds. We can also reset our Throwing Hammer's cooldown in about 20 seconds if we find ourselves in a situation where we can't or don't want to pick it up. If that doesn't have you impressed, an Empowered Grenade deals 30% more damage, and an Empowered Melee 17% more damage. But the real fun begins when we start stacking the Empowered buff with the Code of the Devastator's passive ability, Roaring Flames. Solar ability kills increase solar ability damage, and this buff stacks up to 3 times. At this point, the damage increase is so great that we don't need to worry about the numbers. This build is starting to speak for itself. So, with ordnance mods, the bomber perk, and the Heart of Inmost Light, we'll be throwing a lot of grenades. And the Empower effect coupled with the Roaring Flames buff from the subclass itself will allow us to dish out some impressive devastation. Now let's go out into the field and test it out. Alright folks, this week we are testing out our build in a forge, and this is the Burguisa forge? Burguisa? I don't know how to pronounce it exactly, but it is the 4th and truly final forge. This one is a little bit more difficult than the others because of the light level requirements, but we should be okay. Hopefully I can hit targets with my hammer pretty effectively and recover it as often as possible, and show off the real potential of this build. So one of the nicest things about the Throwing Hammer, in contrast to all of the other Titan melee abilities that restore health, is that I can get the health restoration kind of from range. So if I do throw out my hammer and manage to pick it back up again, I can use that against exploding enemies like Exploding Thrall and other things like that. Now my hammer is currently on cooldown, so I can't use it at all, but the cooldown has almost been replenished because of the Empower effect. I'm going to toss out a grenade there and reactivate the Empower, and my hammer is back in action, so I'll throw it at that guy, throw it again to get a nice chain of kills on these things and keep myself topped off. Even as I'm taking damage, I run over to the hammer, pick it back up to give myself a burst of healing. So it's nice. I do like it, but there are some situations where the healing is not as on demand as I would like it to be. So right there, I would have had to run a pretty long distance to reacquire my hammer to get the healing when I needed the healing right in the moment, and that's unfortunate. But we're seeing the Heart of Inmost Light coming into play right now. I activated my Barricade to reduce the cooldown of my hammer and my grenade, and my hammer is almost ready. And there we go. Let's throw it at that guy. Try and reacquire it to start the health regen. Don't think I needed to use my super, but why the hell not? Let's just use it to kill as much stuff as we can. Maybe generate some orbs of light for our teammates. The super is not as strong as I would like it to be, but it's certainly not bad. I would never call this super bad, especially if you can get Roaring Flames rolling on this super before you're fighting a boss or a really strong major enemy. it absolutely destroys, and hopefully we can see that on the final boss when it comes up. So far, we're doing all right. I would have liked to have not died, of course, but we're doing okay, all things considered. Let's chuck out a grenade. We've got Roaring Flames ×3 already, so let's make use of it as best we can. Now, the unfortunate thing, if you can call it unfortunate, is that... what was I going to say? I completely lost my train of thought. I don't remember what I was going to say. But right there, we used our throwing hammer to bust open this guy's shield, and he is coming at us full force. But we can kite around, throwing our hammer at different targets to get the health regen procced so we don't die. Now, one thing, I probably shouldn't have killed that big servitor because all it did was cause it to split into more little servitors, so I'm going to pay attention to that in the future. Woof. Oh, it's over. So this is one of the other main problems that you'll find with this subclass is sometimes you'll miss your throwing hammer and it'll take you straight out of the combat, and it really kills momentum if you run to go pick it up. And sometimes you do cool stuff like that and it all feels worth it. Oh no! Yes. I have no idea. Oh, did it? Oh, there it is. I lost it. It's fine. So again, we're going to see the Heart of Inmost Light come into play. As soon as our barricade is off cooldown, we're going to activate that so we can trigger the Empower effect and reduce the cooldown of both our hammer and our grenade. I always feel a little bit naked when I'm fighting without the hammer because I do tend to rely on it for a health regen. I like to play this subclass very aggressively, and without that ability to regen in mid-combat, I have to temper my aggressions a little bit. We just need one more ball thrown into the forge, and I see one. This guy's using it to punch things. That is a very Titan thing of him to do. But just like that, though, all of our cooldowns have been refreshed. Now, as the boss comes out, it does come out with waves of adds. So what we're going to try to do is get a 3-stack of Roaring Flames before we engage with the boss. Then we'll boop it one time with our tractor cannon and start the killing. Oh, this guy's a little strong. We'll kill him with a grenade, maybe? Ooh, give me that, give me that. Okay, we've got 2 stacks. The boss is here. I'm just going to go for it. And now we're just going to wail on it. We've got that tractor cannon on, all those flames ticking away, and we're just hammering. We're having a good time. You know, even if it's not the highest DPS super in the game, it's super satisfying to just bash on a tank with a giant flaming hammer. And that's all I'll say about that. But we did get the boss down a decent amount, and our teammates helped us out as well. The tractor cannon boop was certainly effective as well. Let's save this guy. I'm gonna die here probably. Can I? Yes. No. The last thing that we're gonna do is go into a lost sector and just talk a little bit more about the subclass and the build and why I like it, the things about it I don't like, because it can be difficult to get complete ideas out when you're in the middle of a forge fighting for survival. So overall, I think did a pretty good job of showing off how the hammer can work in a real gameplay situation. It's challenging, but if you land your throws, if you manipulate the abilities correctly, you wind up with the strongest Titan grenades in the game, because no other Titan subclass has access to the Roaring Flames style effect. So getting ridiculously powerful grenades is awesome. And something cool that you can do is, instead of using the thermite grenade, you can switch over to the fusion grenade to have a really nice single target damage. So I think I'll show that off on the boss for this lost sector. So instead of having this wide sweeping line of fire, we're gonna have a single controlled detonation. So we'll throw it out, kill that guy, get Roaring Flames, and throw our hammer to kill another person. So I think probably the main thing to get used to with this subclass, and something that may improve your enjoyment of it, is that you don't have to throw your hammer all the time, right? And one thing that you can certainly try to do is throw it at least every 15 seconds so that you can keep your roaring flames at maximum stacks, because that's what I find most useful for the throwing hammer, just to keep roaring flames primed and ready for when you need to throw out a grenade fully charged. So right now I've got 10 seconds left, so I've got time to think, all right, do I need to throw my hammer now? No, but I can, so that's fine. Refreshed roaring flames. And just trying to keep that buff running as consistently as possible. Because one thing that got on my nerves a lot with this subclass initially was feeling as if I had to throw my hammer every single moment that I have it available, and that's just not the case. I think it's much better to only throw it at least every 10 to 15 seconds to keep the Roaring Flames buff active. So now that we have a 3 stack, we'll throw that grenade, and it absolutely shredded an entire bar of his health. So we'll just activate our super and destroy the boss. And there we go, that's going to do it for our build for today. The Code of the Devastator is a difficult subclass to work with, but it's a lot of fun and very rewarding when you do master the abilities and build your entire loadout around it. As soon as I got the Heart of Inmost Light and started experimenting with the Empower effect and stacking that with Roaring Flames, I was not disappointed in the slightest. If you have the Hollow Fire Heart exotic chest piece, that is a very reasonable alternative for the Heart of Inmost Light, and you will get an equal amount of success using that. With all of that said, we're gonna wrap things up. If you'd like to provide more support to the channel than you already do by liking, commenting, subscribing, and just watching the videos, you can head over to patreon.com/iBluairJgR and become a patron. I recently got my second patron, and I'm very excited about that. I'm sure you can hear me smiling through the microphone. So, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.